In this video, I'll demonstrate some of the more advanced tests you can do with the CR Summit with NCS Plus. I'm going to start a new study, and I'll demonstrate the tests first, and then I'll show you how to set them up. So what I'll show is, I'm going to go to the Nerves tab here. I'll show just a 2-channel motor setup, a mixed test with motor and F-wave, and then a mixed 2-channel test with motor, F, and sensory. So this first test, I'm going to do 2-channel median test, or I'm sorry, ulnar test, recording at both the ADM and the FDI, and I have it set up so when I stimulate, I'm going to stimulate the wrist first here. I'm going to get a response at both the ADM and FDI. And then I'm going to hit store and go to the below elbow site. Store and above elbow. And then we can turn the gain down a little bit so you can see those better. And then we can put in our distances. So that's our wrist below elbow and above elbow to ADM, wrist below elbow and above elbow to FDI. So there's a basic 2-channel recording. The next thing I'm going to show is a mixed recording. So in this case, what we have set up is a wrist and an F-wave. A wrist median motor stim site, an F-wave to the wrist, and then an elbow median motor site. So in this case, we have the electrodes just on the APB, stimulating at the wrist. And the advantage to this test is once you find supramaximal at the wrist, you don't need to move the stimulator or anything. All you have to do is hit store, and then it takes you right to F-wave, and you can acquire some F-waves. And then store again, takes you right back to the elbow. So you move the stimulator to the elbow now, and there we've done a median motor and F-wave quite efficiently on one trace window. And then the next test I'm going to show you is this is a mixed motor, F, and sensory. We're set this up with a 2-channel. So what I mean by 2-channel is I'm going to record the first channel just like I was before from the APB, stimming at the wrist, and the second channel from digit 2, stimming at the wrist. So I would measure, my 8 centimeters from the APB down to the wrist, and then I would measure up 14 centimeters from that point, and then I'm going to stimulate at the wrist, and I'm going to get a response, both motor and sensory, from the same stim site. And then store, and then do my F-wave. And then store. If we need to do that back, we can. And then it takes me right back to my elbow. And just like that, we've done a median motor, sensory, and F-wave all in one trace window. There's our results. Distances in there. We can put in our distance for our motor segment, and we're finished. So to set these tests up, what we can do, I'm going to just go back to the home screen here and go to Edit Test Protocols, where we can go to the Setup screen and go to Test Protocols, and then go to NCS Plus. And I'm just going to delete the ones that are here and just show you how I had those set up. So first I'm going to do the 2-channel ulnar. So I'm going to right click and add a test setup. And I'm going to call it ulnar 2-channel ADM FDI. You can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to add the first site. And this site is going to be an ulnar nerve stimulating at the wrist to the ADM. The next site will be ulnar nerve stimulating at the wrist to the FDI. The next site will be ulnar nerve stimulating at the below elbow to the ADM. And then the next site will be below elbow to FDI. The next site is above elbow to ADM. and the next site is above elbow to FDI. And then the way we make it so it's not just in consecutive order is we're going to check the multi-channel box so it knows that we're going to be recording more than one channel at a time. And then we're going to go to the sites that are going to be set as channel 2, which are the FDI sites. And I'm going to go to FDI, and on the amplifier I'm going to uncheck default and change this to channel 2. Do the same thing to the below elbow to FDI. And then the above elbow to FDI. That's it. So now we have a 2-channel setup for the ulnar to ADM and FDI. The next test I'm going to set up is a mix test. So in this case I'm going to call this median, motor, and F-wave, for example. And the first site we're going to do on that test is a median nerve to wrist to APB. The next site is going to be actually a F-wave, median wrist to APB. And the next site will do a motor elbow, median to elbow to APB. And maybe on occasion you may want to also do an axilla to APB and maybe a nerves point. And if those aren't done very often, we'll just go ahead and make those hidden so they're not always visible. So that's a mixed test. So we're going to first stimulate the motor, and then without obviously having to adjust the stimulator at all, we can do the F wave and then go on to the elbow and the axilla. So that's how we set up a mixed test. You can also do mixed sides. If you do mixed sides, now you can actually do right, left, kind of whatever you do. So you can really get creative with these tests. The next thing I'm going to show is the median mixed motor F and sensory. So we'll call this median, we're going to do a 2-channel motor F and sensory. To set this up, the first site is going to be the median stimulating at the wrist and recording at the APB. The second site is going to be the sensory, median nerve, stimulating at the wrist, recording at digit 2. The next site is going to be F wave, median nerve, wrist to APB. And the next site is going to be the motor, median elbow to APB. And for those that want it, you can add additional sites here. And you could do additional sensory sites if you wanted to as well. We'll just do axilla and hide that one. So now this is set up, and we're going to do a 2-channel study. And we're going to leave all of these channel 1 except for the sensory, because we're going to record sensory and motor simultaneously. So the sensory site, we're going to set that up as channel 2. And so the mixed 2-channel motor F and sensory test that I just showed you, that's how we'd set it up. Quite easy to set those up. Again, make sure that all your segments are set up here. So you go to your median motor and sensory segments and make sure you have all the segments that you're going to need so you can get the velocities that you want. And then hit OK. And then you have those tests set up. So that's some of the advanced tests you can do with NCS Plus. Kind of shows you some of the flexibility it has and options you have with NCS Plus.